Jason Campbell is the general manager of the Canadian International Auto Show. In this conversation, we dive into what running a successful auto show all entails, the various challenges, and what makes OEM and other vendor booths so successful. After university, his job was with Formula Ford, and that led him down a wild path into racing, which included being the head of marketing for Renault F1. His dynamic background with large teams, automotive, and operations gave him an incredible skill set and experiences to go ahead and lead the auto show. This conversation was recorded live at the ACE conference in Niagara Falls, so it has a slight different format and a slight different sound. Thank you everybody for tuning in to another episode of Dealership Legends. Running a auto show like the Toronto Auto Show, amazing event by the way, we were there last year, fantastic, some very cool displays. Oh, how has that changed over the last 10 years of being involved?
Well, it's obviously the biggest change was the fact that during the pandemic, we couldn't run for 2 years.
Right.
We have really focused very much, in particular in the last 10 years, on our feature development and coming up with strong feature content that are both engaging to automotive enthusiasts, for motor racing enthusiasts, but also people that are just general interested in cars, families, for example. We've had a very big and long association with Lego, with Hot Wheels. Both are coming back with really big exhibits at this year's show. And going out on particular Family Day weekend is a great family experience, shopping for cars and entertaining the family. And we try and make the experience at the show a place where you can do the shopping and entertaining equally well. We've had a great return since the pandemic. The first year back was challenging because we only had about half the car brands there, but we had about 14 brands return last year. We have another 3 major brands coming back this year. And so I think it's getting back to near full capacity, and we've expanded into all floors of the building. We had a great VIP night last year with the Bare Naked Ladies, probably 7,000 people coming together from the industry, which is a real sign of the industry strength. And, experiential has become very important, in particular on the EV space. We introduced 2 years ago our indoor EV test drive, which was the first in North America where you could drive a car yourself indoors. And we're still going to be maintaining that for this coming 2025 show.
That was very popular this last year.
Yeah, we did over 7,000 test drives before, with the internal and external test drives. I anticipating that number will grow again this year. Despite the challenging marketplace, it's still a hugely important sector for car manufacturers to be in. It's a very important story for media to talk about, and industry and government is fully invested in this space. And so it's a place we need to be. And, it's really rated as one of our, most highly rated consumer experiences at the show.
Definitely. Seth and I were at the show with the girlfriends this past year, and I even just like when we talk experiences and how you guys have created those. I know Barbie was in there, and the girls forced us to take a picture in the booth, but it was just like a fun little side piece, and I think families at the show
it was a very popular feature. I think we had more media coverage on the Barbie car than probably any other car at the show.
Gotcha.
And those kind of fun exhibit pieces are what we try and showcase alongside the great new product. And we've got new brands coming in with new product to show. The supercars and the exotics are always a big draw for us, and we focus very heavily on that with our Auto Exotica content is always been very strong and will be again this year. And I'm anticipating we're looking for another great showcase, and we're looking at options to try and make the audience experience that much better. We're looking at a bigger discount program for people that come during the week or people that come in the evening, non-peak time attendance, that will help spread the audience and make it more comfortable for everybody at the show to see and get in the cars and maximize the number of eyeballs that are on the floor, which is what our show is all about: driving interest, driving purchase intention, of fueling the new car buying experience, which takes place every spring. And of course, the spring buying season was disrupted during the pandemic when very few products were available.
Yep.
But we're slowly seeing that come back around to be its traditional focus again in the spring, and a lot of big pushes going on with many manufacturers at the show this year. And I think we're going to be seeing more and more brands return. We've seen the Paris Auto Show come back strong this year, much better showcase than it had 2 years ago. And I think we're seeing the same in New York and LA. And I'm fully expecting our show to be another show that grows and improves with age.
Awesome. How do you guys go about making decisions and big changes to the show year to year? Because I imagine as soon as the show is done, you guys are planning the next year.
We actually have our first planning meeting at the last Saturday of the show.
Okay.
It's because
Gotcha.
we do a walk around when you can see the full flow of the audience. You can see what areas are popular, what aren't. And last year we had a really strong showcase where there was no, I'd call, dead space. And it was really fully engaging content, right? All 8 levels of the show. And I think that this meeting here, we have a big annual showcase here at the ACE conference with our board of directors to talk through final plans. The manufacturers are solidifying their contract intentions, and we're having discussions about, okay, where do we want to focus? What are pricing strategies? What do we want to employ? And how do we invest to ensure we get the maximum audience possible, both on media strategy, PR strategy, and all of those things are discussed here as kind of our last key planning meeting before we really get into full execution mode, which will start kind of November, December, January.
Awesome. Well, I do have to pay you guys a compliment because your social media this year, I remember being so much, it stood out to me a lot more. I mean, us being in the space too, it helped, but just seeing how the flow leading up to the show and even after the show and all the content that went out. So kudos
Thank
to you guys.
We actually brought in a bright young guy. Eric has been overseeing that, and he's worked with us full time, whereas previously we'd outsourced it to an agency. But having someone full time focusing on this as a core mandate of their job has been really helpful. And he's here helping at other events. It's not just doing that, but he's been a big asset to us. And I've had multiple people tell me that. So thanks for commenting on it.
Keep him around.
I will.
What are your biggest challenges setting up a show like this? What kind of problems do you guys run into that you try to solve?
Well, obviously the one biggest challenge is getting final commitments and everyone to make their plans early enough so that we have time to ensure that we can have a strong floor plan, that we maximize the space usage available. Right now, we've got some brands that are planning to take over different areas of the show that we normally don't have manufacturers in.
Okay.
And that will be a little bit different for us in terms of where do we put the other content that was in those spaces around other parts of the show. So I'm anticipating by the end of this month, we'll have the full complement of manufacturer contracts done. We'll know for certain who's coming, and then we can get into the promotional side of it and fill in what gaps remain. There won't be very many, but with additional content. But we've had such a great run of success the last, say 5 or 6 years. Some traditional partners of ours are all eager to come back, and so it makes it easier when you don't have to reinvent the wheel every year. Mind you, we still keep the content fresh. We want new things. It can't be the same show year after year. And so it's finding new content and re-engaging with those really important partners that we have to make sure that the consumer experience is different year to year.
Definitely. With these big franchises or OEMs that come in and set these booths up, is there something that sticks out to you that is something that all the successful brands do at the shows, whether it's how they set up their displays, or is there anything specific that stands out to you?
Well, I think that what's important is having well-trained CSRs. I mean, obviously, every brand tries to make their booth look as beautiful as possible.
Right.
What is really important, though, is to have good CSRs on site that will be able to engage with consumers, that know their product, that can showcase, because it is a shopping experience, and people are wanting to not be sold to, but they want to have experts there. They can ask questions and be having knowledgeable responses given as to how the car works, what are its features, and that really is quite important. I think, most of the brands do come with very well trained and very well briefed CSRs. Some have more focus on that than others.
Okay.
And that's important. Engaging content, something new and interesting feature wise within the display always keeps people that everyone looks for the sticky factor. What keeps them in your booth versus going off to your competitors? And, having some interesting content that you can share that that engages consumers well is always a popular feature. And concept cars, it's a lot of people come to the show to see new product, but they also want to see the concepts. So a brand that makes the investment effort to bring a concept car really helps themselves by bringing a lot of eyeballs, both media as well as consumer attention to their booth, and that pays off in the long run. It's not cheap to bring a car in, but it does pay off in terms of the attention you get, and you're all fighting for the same eyeballs, and it's hard to stand out.
Definitely. Well, walking through the show, I mean, we're all car guys, but walking through the paths that you have made, and I could see how you kind of set it up, where you want people to go, but cars are everywhere, and vehicles have to stand out. So having those concepts are very helpful. I know, was it Infinity that had their flagship SUV? Beautiful concept.
Yeah, they had the QX. They had a concept car. Then they've also brought their global design director, who I used to work with when my previous job at I was managing Infinity sponsorship with Red Bull Formula One team, and so it was nice to meet up with old friends. And a lot of media today, when they're coming to the show, really look to meet with people and to have a deep background discussion with them. And when they bring in global leaders that can give them some different insight that they would otherwise get from the local markets, then it's always helpful and gives them more coverage. So we encourage all of our brands to do that, and those that do tend to get a big play. We had the CEO of Bugatti, Rimac, at the show last year, Mate Rimac, and he was an interesting character and
very nice guy,
very nice chap, and he made time for some media, and they saw great value from it. So ours was the first showcase of the Rimac Niagara. Then they took it to New York show. So we always like to be first. All of our shows are competing to get the first of everything, and so it was nice to be able to one up New York from that respect.
Yes, very interesting guy. I've never talked to him, but I've heard very good things. And our most popular post on social is actually of the Rimac Niagara. Sitting on that beautiful display, turning around. So you guys had that set up so nicely.
Yeah, it was a beautiful display. Grand Touring Automobiles do a great job with us. They brought a huge collection of vehicles last year, and we're looking forward to another strong partnership with them again this year.
Awesome. Can we dive a little bit into your past before the auto show?
Yeah.
We talked F1 just a bit ago. Do you want to let us know how you got into that?
Well, I left university here in 94, summer of 94, and my first job in Europe was working for an events agency, and I started running the Formula Ford and Fiesta Championship in the UK.
Okay.
For our agency managed all of Ford Motorsport PR in North America and in Europe. And so 2 years of Formula Ford, running around different racetracks around the UK and Central Europe was interesting. But then when Jackie Stewart started his F1 team, I had the chance to go work doing logistics, hotel management, car management for Ford Motor Company with the Stewart Grand Prix program, which is a great experience. Travel the world when you're 26 years old. It was a great time. And I did that for 3 years before taking on a role with British American Tobacco. It was doing the PR for Lucky Strike and 555 brands when they launched the British American Racing Team. And from there, after a couple of years, our agency won some business with WorldCom that was sponsor of Williams. So I managed that project for a year before joining Renault F1. And I was head of marketing at Renault F1 for 10 years.
Okay.
And my last 3 years in Europe was spent with managing Infinity sponsorship with Red Bull Racing. So it was a great time. I was 2011, 12, and 13 when we won 3 championships in a row, which was a good time to be with the team. And in total, I had the privilege of experiencing 5 world championships in my time with different teams. And it was a great experience. But coming back to Canada was always something I had in my mind. What was supposed to be a 1-year project in Europe turned out to be 20 years. But the auto show has been a great experience. It still allows me to use some of the event planning activities, which I did throughout that time, but just over a more focused time, which makes your life, especially with the wife and child, it's much easier to manage this kind of a lifestyle than 33 weekends on the road. And that was what really was my time in Formula One. It was great, but, for a young person with a family, it's tough. And so this is a much more interesting experience. I still keep in touch with old friends and colleagues. I get down to the Montreal Grand Prix just to meet up with some some old colleagues and talk about opportunities. We've had collaborations with the Montreal Grand Prix at our show. We had Ross Brawn, who was head of Formula One, came and speak to us at the show for a special event we did in 2020, just before the pandemic hit, and
Okay.
that was an interesting experience. We also had Mario Andretti. We've had a number of high-profile motor racing celebrities, and I bring a little bit of that to the show, which I try and dip a little bit in every year. It's a niche audience,
Yeah.
but the
It's
automotive
growing though,
media
fast.
do enjoy it and really follow it. So it's something that I think there's a lot of interest in, and I know we do the best displays of these feature content than I've seen at any other show in North America, for sure.
I love it. What did you learn from leadership and managing teams? Because F1, I got really fascinated behind the business aspect of it and how the teams operate. There's so many different people that goes into making a successful team. And with you being in so many championships, what did you take away from that?
Well, I think one of the things which in the teams that I worked for that were successful, they always had one strong leader. We had Flavio Briatore at Renault. He was, there was no question who's the boss, and you need that control because, you're managing a team of 1,000+ people between engine operations, chassis operations. Decision making has to be quick. You don't have time for committees. I think some of the teams that were more led by corporate offices struggled because they didn't have that unity of decision making that's required. And in particular now when Formula One is 24 race weekends a year, you don't have time to make decisions by committee. It's got to be tight decision making process. You've got to have strong budgets, but budgets don't breed success, but they are one of the prerequisites. You've got to have a strong financial program, strong partnerships that you employ. Christian Horner, who's done a great job of running the Red Bull Formula One team, has really been a key guy, and he's absolutely seen as the clear leader in the operation there. And those are important factors. We always tried to find people that had experience in Formula One. I very rarely went out and I'd find young agency people that would be strong, would see, okay, they've worked well with certain sponsors and say, okay, let's give them a chance. They know the sport, they know the rigors of what's involved, and are not going to get upset about being on the road all the time. They know the
Right.
rules and regs, which there's many in Formula One that you have to abide by, that are many unwritten, and you don't have time to educate people because your off season in that sport is so short now. When I first started, the season would start late March and would finish mid-October. Now the season starts early March and finishes December. So the off season is almost no time to plan. So you really are running one season into the next, both from the technology side, but also from the marketing side. So
Right.
it's a challenge to overcome, but it's a fun, exciting sport for people that want to get in. It's just hard to get in. You really have to be in the UK. That's really the home of where even the technical teams for Mercedes, the technical teams for Ferrari have bases in the UK.
Yep.
The team that is based in Switzerland, the Sauber team, which Audi is in the process of taking over,
Okay.
is they face a challenge because there's a lot of people that work in the sport that share their talents amongst a bunch of different teams. Oxford is the home of many people in Formula One because you can work for 5 different teams all within 45-minute drive of Oxford, and so it's an interesting aspect of that sport.
I can only imagine that you said you're in your 20s, 26, getting into F1. I can only imagine how many cool life experiences that you got to have by traveling the world and meeting all these people.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, it's I think my favorite race I'd go to is Argentina. That was
Okay.
when it was on the calendar. It's a great city, beautiful Buenos Aires, but it was it's a great way to see the world. I gotta tell you, I'd never be able to afford to do that without that kind of a project. But it really taught you a lot about international culture. The world's a very small place. Everybody is very similar, with the same loves and same passions around the world. And people in the sport are very international. I think in Formula One, there's probably over 100 different nationalities involved in the sport, in the paddock. At least that was the case when I was there. I'm sure it's even grown since then.
Yeah. Very cool. What can dealers and OEMs look forward to in the coming auto show Is there anything that you can kind of give us a sneak peek
Well,
on?
I think we're not yet ready to reveal some of the feature content exactly, but we're excited to have more brands coming back, and I think that from a consumer perspective, the offerings are going to be better this year than they were last year. We'll have more cars available for test drives, both indoor and outdoor, and I think they'll be equally good from a consumer's perspective pricing strategies to ensure that it's still affordable and people can come down. It's a great shopping experience. Dealers can still access it in a very, very easy way. Our partnership with the industry is stronger than ever. And I think we'll also find one more conference that's going to be joining us at the show this year. We already
Right.
have the Automotive News Congress. I know CADA holds this important automotive summit. There'll also be a financial summit among the Lenders Association of Canada. They'll be hosting a dealer lending summit that will be taking place also around the show. So
Awesome.
it's more and more becoming the automotive, month, if you like, at the show.
That's cool. Drives a lot of business and value for consumers. You did mention affordability and the pricing strategies, and I think that's going to be something huge that we see. I don't want to drop too many brand names, but I know Stellantis is going to have to make some decisions likely in their pricing strategy for products. Are you seeing or obviously expecting more budget-friendly options for consumers coming to the show?
Yeah, we are. I think we're wanting to try and expand the discount opportunities for people to join, and by doing so, spreading the audience. The biggest challenge we have is, if we get too many people coming all at once on a Saturday and Sunday.
Yep.
And what we want to try and do is find a way to encourage more people to come later in the day, especially on weekends. We're going to be reintroducing a feature we ran in 2019 and 2020 called Light Up the Night, where we're going to be having some motor racing vehicles that will be doing live fire-ups and chats to personnel
Awesome.
from different racing series. And we found that very popular in those last 2 years before the pandemic. We're going to reintroduce that because we saw a big shift of audience coming later just to see those vehicles and hear the sounds that they wouldn't otherwise get. We're also looking at discounting further tickets throughout the course of the week so that it becomes a more affordable option, and still maintaining our strong discounting that we do on what we call Super Tuesday. And so you could still come to the show for the same price that you paid back in 2017,
Right.
which in today's marketplace is hard to imagine given
Absolutely.
the inflation that we've had over the last 5 years in particular.
Yeah. More value for the customer. I mean, your show just keeps getting better and better. I know I love the auto show. We go every year, and growing up as a kid, always did.
Yeah.
Always see the new vehicles out.
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a great place to see what's new and continue the education as you're looking for new product, because you got to think smart. The cars are a major investment, and you got to take your time to think about it and see everything that's out in the marketplace, because there's lots of different offerings.
absolutely. Jason Campbell, thanks for
Nice to
coming on the
meet you,
show.
Braden. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
I hope you found some value in this conversation, just like I did. And we're excited to continue to bring interviews and conversations with dealership legends, maybe just like yourself. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. I'm your host, Braden Gingrich from Dealer Surge.